If we could talk to the animals, learn all their languages, maybe take an animal degree. If I conferred with our furry friends, man to animal, think of the amazing repartee. If I could walk with the animals, talk with the animals, grunt and squeak and squawk with the animals, and they could talk to me.
Hello and welcome to Pet Watch, a monthly program about the Williamson County Animal Control Center. My guest today is Hannah Jacobs. Hi, Hannah.
Hi.
Today we're going to talk about animal control officers, or ACOs, as they're sometimes referred to.
Yes.
Hannah is one of the 3 animal control officers we have at the shelter. And how long have you been with us, Hannah?
I've been with Williamson County since July of 2014.
Okay. And you came on staff and became an animal control officer and kind of got your on-the-job training.
I did very quickly.
Yeah. She's one of the uniformed officers you see riding around, and we have 3 trucks. They're big white trucks that say animal control. Hannah is in the first line of enforcement. If a person calls the shelter and wants to report an incident, a stray, or a situation that they're concerned about, you're really the first person they meet, aren't you?
We are. We're the face of law enforcement when it comes to animal control in Williamson County.
What do you do when you get a call? What's the first thing you do?
The first thing we do is just research background history. We like to know as much information going into it as possible. We want to know if there's been pre-existing violations at that place, or if the owner at that address has got existing background that might be a safety concern for an officer, so we know whether or not it's okay to go out by ourselves or if we need to call another department to assist us. And then from there we move forward and just investigate the situation fully. So we go out and patrol the area, see if there really is a violation occurring, and whether or not there is or isn't, we go through and educate everybody and make sure they all know what's going on.
And when you're doing that investigation, you mentioned other law enforcement agencies, and there are sometimes situations where it's not just a stray animal that you're trying to round up and save and reunite with their owner. Sometimes it's a serious situation involving the Williamson County Sheriff's Department's help or the Franklin Police's help.
Exactly.
And that's the downside of your job, but a very important side, because it protects the animals from further harm. And the kinds of things you might run into are what? That might be, abusive to an animal, or a situation that they shouldn't be living in.
A lot of times we run into environmental concerns. People will kind of let their house get a little bit run down, or let their grass get super overgrown, and that can prevent a dog from accessing its shelter. And so even though they're providing a dog house for their shelter, if their dog can't get into it, then they're sitting outside in the elements all day long. You have things like dog fighting and things like that are definitely huge neglect situations that have to be investigated. And oftentimes in those situations, we do rely heavily on other departments, like the Sheriff's Department or different city police departments, to kind of help keep the peace and help make sure that we're staying by the legal guidelines and everybody's obeying the laws. And then, for instance, when we're doing the environmental concerns, we rely on places like Franklin Codes. They can kind of come in and help us enforce those types of laws and make sure that people are keeping their house up to date, which in turn directly keeps their animal protected and safe.
What are the basics that a pet owner has to provide for a dog on their property? What do you have to do legally?
The basic thing that you have to provide is shelter and water. A shelter has to have three sides, a roof, and a floor. It can't just be like a typical airline carrier that's got the holes on the sides, because then if it rains or it snows, those elements can come in from the holes, and the animal could be cold or could be wet. And then they have to have access to a water bowl. A food bowl is also necessary. However, if your dog's anything like mine and you feed him within 15 minutes, the food is gone. So the most important thing to have constant access to is water. And then also, if you're going to have your dog outside and you're going to have it tethered, the dog has to have a swivel on both ends. So wherever the tether is stationed to has to have a swivel, and then also connected to the collar, it has to have a swivel to prevent the dog from getting tangled up.
Okay, so we do still allow tethering in Williamson County within those restrictions.
Yes.
And all of those animal laws were kind of compiled by our county commission a few years ago and put into a form that citizens can access on our website, or call us and we'll educate them. Or if you're in a situation, if a person's in a situation where they need to set up a trolley system for which is the way you're talking about tethering, is allows movement of the animal, and they can call you and you could come out and say, this would be a great place to put it. Here's how you set it up. So that way you're in compliance. And I would encourage that not only to our citizens, not only to call you when there's a problem, but to call you before they begin building a system or providing shelter and say, is this going to be adequate? Because I want to be within compliance with the law.
Exactly.
As we are here to protect our animals. One of the things that you all do is ongoing education, and I know you recently, our animal control officers, attended a certification seminar. What is the organization that kind of oversees what you do?
We go through a company called NACA. They're the National Animal Control Association. They take a bunch of different resources and take a wide variety of people that are involved in animal control agencies, whether they're just kennel tech workers or if they're in the field serving as ACOs, and they train you on all types of aspects of things that you could come into contact with on a daily basis. When I took Module 1, they talked to us about breed identification. So just knowing as an animal gets surrendered as a stray, what type of animal that is. They talk to you about behavior assessments and how to handle aggressive dogs or aggressive cats. They talk to you about signs so that you can tell the difference between a happy animal and a fearful animal, which comes in handy a lot more than you might think. And just a bunch of different things. One of the more in-depth procedures that they talk about is how to write and serve search warrants. In the event that you have to do one of those, it's always nice to know going into it the process and how to deliver one so you don't make any mistakes that could potentially jeopardize your case. NACA is a national organization, so most all animal control agencies use them, but their our training certifications vary from county to county. For instance, Williamson County offers their animal control officers safety certifications. So our animal control officers are pepper spray certified and baton certified as well, which is a safety benefit for us being out in the field.
And not a fun day when you had the pepper spray.
Not a fun day in the least.
Like all law enforcement officers, you do undergo a certain amount of training where you understand what pepper spray does and how it debilitates a person, and in a rare occasion you might have to use it. Can you use it on an animal, or is it just if you encountered a person who might?
You can use it on an animal. Their anatomy is made up a little bit differently, so it's not as effective, but it can buy you some time if you're backed into a corner and you need just a few more seconds to make a decision. I think the general guideline is to protect us in the event that we come up against someone, out in the field, a different person. But it does teach you to know in the event if it turns around and gets used on you, you know how to work through it and how to not panic. And in my personal experience, how to not panic if it happens to you.
And I think 90% of what you do is calm, cool, and collected every day with very cooperative citizens. So we don't want to dwell too much on the traumatic experiences, but they do come up. There are situations in our county that people may not be aware of. There have been hoarding situations. There have been properties with hundreds of animals that have, for their own benefit, have had to be removed. And there even have been properties with just a few animals, but the situation got so far out of the person's control, out of their trying to save animals and getting themselves in so deep that they end up with a property that they shouldn't even occupy. So those things do happen in our county, but most of the calls you get are, there's a stray dog running through my neighborhood, or my dog got out and I can't find it. Both those situations, if a person sees a stray animal running through their neighborhood and they don't know whose it is, what first I would encourage them, that's the Smith's dog, just go say hi and take it back to the Smiths. That solves that problem. But if it is a stray that they can't identify and they call you, that's the first thing they should do, right, is call animal control.
Yes, always call animal control. We're the first line of defense. So if we get a call, that animal that's out roaming around is at a higher susceptibility to be attacked by another animal, to be hit by a vehicle. So the sooner you call animal control, the sooner we can respond, and the more likely we are to find the animal out in the field and either reunite it with its owner or bring it back to the shelter so it's in a safe environment until its owner can be found.
And in this county, there is no fear of an animal being euthanized because you pick it up. And I think there are still people that need to be educated that our shelter never euthanizes strays for space, for age, or for how long they've been at the shelter. We've had animals stay there more than a year. Our save rate is over 95%, so we're at a great advantage that we function pretty much as a no-kill shelter. We meet the 10% threshold that definition is often given. But I think people, when they lose their pets, sometimes go about that searching for their pet the wrong way. Let's say if you come home and your dog has gotten out of your yard, what is the first thing a citizen should do?
They should always come to animal control to look for the dog or for the cat. I always tell people when they call and they ask if there's a boxer there, that's brown and white. I always say you should come in because you know your pet better than I do. Always come in, take a look around. We recommend coming in a couple of times because if we get a call about it, if we're super, super busy, we may not get out to that area until the next day. So we ask for you to come in multiple times to check for your pet. We have a website that can be utilized to see if you happen to miss it and that dog gets moved into adoption. You can kind of track an animal through our system through the whole process.
One of the first things we do is scan for the microchip. If your pet is microchipped and you keep the records up to date on the online service, we will be able to reunite you with your pet. Or if they have a Williamson County rabies tag, we can look up that number. So microchipping and rabies tags on a collar are critical to reuniting pets. And we reunite all the time. We call it return to owner. Everybody makes mistakes. Pet sitters let go of the leash, the dog jumps out of the yard, somebody left the gate open. We understand those things and they're everyday occurrences. But microchipping is the quickest and easiest way, is it not?
It is. All the animal control officers carry microchip scanners in their trucks. So when we pick an animal up out in the field, we immediately scan for a microchip. And if we come up with that information, we can contact the microchip company directly in the field, and we can take the animal back to their owner without ever having to stress it out by taking it back to the shelter. Even though they're well taken care of at the shelter, it's a new environment. So it is stressful for an animal to have to ride in the truck back there and be put in a new environment and wait for their owner to come pick them back up. So we can bypass that whole process and reunite them with their owner directly in the field.
I didn't even know that till now. That's wonderful because you could be sitting right in front of where they live.
Exactly.
And you talked about bringing them into the shelter and our intake area. It is stressful for an animal to be out of its home, and she's used to sitting on the sofa all day, and suddenly a stranger has taken it to a new place. And one of the things that creates a cost for us is we immediately have to vaccinate all the animals we bring in. If we cannot immediately prove that the rabies tag is current, then there's a certain amount of medicines that have to be administered in order to protect our staff and all the other animals in our care. So that's another advantage of microchipping, is saves us the expense of all those vaccinations when they come through the door. Now, if a person's dog gets picked up, and what is the policy at the shelter? What do we do with that animal? We immediately do a health assessment and give it some vaccinations, but then what's the waiting period, or what do we do with the animal?
The state law requires us to hold an animal for 3 days, but Williamson County Animal Center goes above and beyond, and we hold an animal for 5 days. Just to give an owner, maybe they're on vacation or they're looking around their neighborhood for a couple of days before they think to come into the shelter. So we hold that animal for 5 days, and then we get to disposition it as needed. So some animals that are very breed specific or unique animals, rescue groups will come and pull those directly from the shelter, or we'll safer assess them, which is where we look at their behavior and their temperament, see how well they respond to other animals, to being fed, things like that. And if they do well, we can move them into adoption to where another family can come in and take them home with them.
Now, I have seen so many situations where a family's out of town and they have someone that they trust, that they've paid to take care of their pets, to come in and feed them, take them out on a walk, so forth. And then we get a panicked pet sitter in the shelter that says, I'm pet sitting and the dog has gotten away. It's typically a dog more than a cat. It's runaways. I just want to encourage our viewers, before you go on vacation, the things you need to do. You need to post on your refrigerator your veterinarian, and if you have a microchip, what that website is. And people don't know that they need to go on the microchip service site and update their phone numbers.
Yes, every time you move, update your address.
Right.
Oftentimes, I know with Williamson County Animal Center, when we do our microchips, they connect directly to the pet owner's information. But some clinics, they will connect that microchip number to the clinic that it was administered at. So the only number you get is that veterinarian's number or the other animal control shelter that you adopted it from.
Okay.
So that only gets you half the way. So it's important to go in every time and make sure that you update your information. You can list secondary information on microchip websites. You can put pictures up there. And you can actually do, if your animal goes missing, you can put in a lost listing, and the microchip company will start alerting the clinics that you use that your pet's gone missing, just as, they're kind of meeting us halfway.
Right.
And letting us know to be on the lookout for your animal.
And it's important to take pictures of your pet periodically, and I would leave that with the pet sitter. I would text it to my pet sitter's phone, or whoever's taking care of your sister, brother, whoever's taking care of your dog. May not have a picture of your dog immediately available should something happen and it gets away.
Exactly.
So I would take a picture. It's just precaution. It's like you would do with your children if you were letting them, stay with grandma for a week. Your dog, suddenly you need a picture, you need this, you need that. So think ahead. It's vacation season, it's summer, and people will be leaving and people will be having their pets taken care of by others. And I think it's so important to say, here's the information you need. Therefore, the pet sitter won't panic. They'll say, oh yeah, they left that for me, let me get it, and here's the deal. And it also is so important to come to the shelter, and if you're looking for a pet, we'll let you go in the back with permission. We'll let a citizen go back there and look, because they look alike. A lot of pets look alike. And if you've lost a black lab, you better have a good photograph, or we can't tell the difference with all the dogs that we might have 4 black labs in house that day. So little white markings on the throat or anything you can think of to identify your dog more fully is always important. And you run into that when you're out looking for a stray.
Oh yeah.
Now tell us about chasing a dog. A lot of people think, oh, I see a stray dog, I stop my car and I start chasing it because I want it to not run out in the road, and I want to get it to animal control or to a safe place, or see if it has a tag. When you get a call, what have you learned about chasing a dog?
I've learned that chasing can lead to more problems than it's really worth. When you chase a dog, a couple of things can happen, or chasing any animal. You can actually cause them to run into traffic because they have a fight or flight response. They want to get out of the situation. So they're going to go wherever they think is necessary to get away from being captured. So you can actually cause them to run into traffic, or you can actually cause them to run so hard and so long that they can cause like respiratory distress or cardiac distress, where they're just overworking themselves, especially if it's a hot summer day, they're out in the heat.
Right.
So it's best to just, in a very, go ahead and call animal control, go ahead and get the ball rolling so we're on our way out there. You can stay in the area if you'd like and observe the animal, see if it moves to a different location. If it goes a couple of streets over, because we'll come out and patrol that individual area, but if the dog moves, we need to know where it's going.
Right.
Or you can talk to it in a calm, soothing voice. A lot of people have had good experience with just sitting down and just, talking to it in a calm voice and allowing the dog to come to it. And then going from there.
And if you could stay in the area long enough to keep your eye on the dog from a distance, it helps you. I know I had a situation where there was a dog behind a large nursery area, and I caught a glimpse of it, and I drove around the back, and it just kept getting further and further away from me. And I wasn't really chasing it. I just wanted to keep my eyes on it. But by the time I was ready to call you, it had disappeared from my view. So it's important with all the rivers and underpasses and things that we have in Franklin. There are a lot of places for dogs to hide, and they do flee. They're in an odd situation. They don't know where they are. They're not being cared for by their families, and they're panicking like we would do if we had to spend the night in the woods. It wouldn't. We're used to sleeping on the couch and watching TV with our owner, and suddenly we're down under an underpass by the river. So we are going to panic, and with the traffic in Franklin, it's so important. And the worst is when you have one on a divided highway and it's just panicking, going from side to side to side, and we don't want a tragedy to happen. So, we want people to be aware that chasing them is never the best answer. Let the pros handle it. There are situations where we can set humane traps too for cats and dogs with food. If you know a cat or dog has been in the area, sometimes you can attract it and get it out of harm's way with a trap. I know there are plenty of dog lovers in this area that will work for months to gain the trust of a dog that's loose and to get it out of harm's way and to find it a home. So you mentioned the summer heat about chasing a dog, and we've seen large breed dogs actually get overheated just on short walks in the heat of the summer at the shelter. We have to be careful with that. Summer brings a lot of hazards that the rest of the year does not have. We're outdoors more. We're working on our grass. We're turning on our grills. We're swimming in the pool. All these things create new hazards. What are some of the common problems, serious problems that might occur in the summertime that people need to be aware of?
Of course, a big thing is leaving an animal in a hot car. A lot of people think, I'm just going to run into the grocery store, grab a couple of things, I'll be back in 5 minutes. Just on a standard average day where the temperature is about 75 degrees, if an animal's in a car for over 5 minutes, that temperature is already going to have climbed about 10 degrees. In the upwards of 30 minutes, the temperature of the indoor temperature of a car can be about 115 degrees. That's detrimental to a pet's safety, and oftentimes it can be fatal. They overheat, and they don't have a way to, maybe access water or to sweat it out. So they overheat and then get sick or die. With things like barbecuing or being out in the pool, people leave their chemicals out that they use to clean their pools. And we all know animals are nosy. They'll get into anything that's left sitting still long enough. So those vet bills for toxic chemicals that have been ingested are much more expensive than it would to be just to take 5 more minutes and make sure that you clean up behind yourself, lock your pool chemicals up in the pool house, put your barbecue stuff, make sure it gets put inside, out of your animal's reach.
And don't leave your grill on in an area where there's a pet loose.
Exactly.
Because they will go for the food.
They will.
And the smell of the food will be so appealing that they can knock the grill over and hurt other people in the family, cause a fire, and all kinds of things. So pool chemicals are especially dangerous, even if your family knows not to go in the pool house or the storage shed. Then be sure that that's locked, and that is never the place that your animal sleeps either, because that exposure, antifreeze is another one in the wintertime that has an appealing taste and can kill an animal quickly. And I watched a segment about a dog that ate some, the people had slugs in their garden, and they put out some poison for the slugs, and the little dog ate the slug poison and killed the dog. And they spent thousands of dollars trying to save the dog over a 2-day period, but it caused massive brain damage, and that dog was, destined to die, all because they had tried to kill those slugs. So there are certain plants in the yard that are poisonous. People need to ask questions. Look it up.
Yes.
ASPCA is a great source for that on their website. And we don't think about that when we go to the store and buy some plants to put out in the yard that our dog might eat them. We talked a lot about dogs, but cats also can get into chemicals and all types of poisons in barns and all kinds of things that cats can get into, and they'll eat it too.
Yes.
Fireworks are another one. It's July the 4th is the big season for that, and in parts of our county, fireworks are legal, and we have a lot of calls on July the 4th, don't we?
And even more on July 5th.
July 5th, when we're using up the fireworks. Yeah, the day after, when they run off, and then they do them again that night. Dogs don't like that sound. A lot of dogs don't like that sound, and it spooks them. So I would encourage people, would you not, to take care of your pets on July the 4th. Keep them in the house.
Yes, keep them inside in a confined space. It can scare them, that loud noise. So dark areas, like your laundry room or something that you can cut the lights off, give them a couple of good blankets and just let them go in there, find their little comfort spot, and just make sure that they're good and safe and confined for the night.
And don't take them to the fireworks show.
No, just leave them at home.
Not a good idea. Those are all preventable. Gasoline containers are also dangerous. Hot lawnmowers, after they've been used, are very hot to the touch. So those are just things people should remember. I want to thank you for all your advice on our animals and let people put a face on what our animal control officers do today. It is summer, and our theme this summer is going to be Find Your Treasure, and we hope that treasure for you will be a new cat or dog. We have big plans to keep maintaining our wonderful 95% save rate at the shelter, and we have several events, adoption events. One is June 13th at Carpet Den Interiors on Mallory Station, and we'll be out there with them, and they have their new pet-proof carpet. So if you have an indoor pet and you need some new carpet, come see what they have at Carpet Den and look through our cats and dogs that'll be there for adoption. And we'll also be at Hometown Pet in Franklin on Highway 96 on the 13th of June, and at Petco in Cool Springs on June the 20th. If you're interested in adopting, we mentioned earlier that there is a website, adoptwcac.org. It is a piece of the petfinder.com internet site, and on it we have the photographs and descriptions of all the cats and dogs available for adoption at our shelter. If you'd like to become a volunteer with us, you can also go to that website, adoptwcac.org, and click on Volunteer Online. Each month we have an orientation session for people who are interested in volunteering for cats, and another one for people who are interested in helping with dogs. This can involve anything from socializing the animals to teaching them how to chill out, to have some quiet time, to taking them on a walk, to brushing them, bathing them. Or if you just like to help us with events, we always need help at the shelter with graphic design and publicity, or any ideas that you might have of a skill that you have. We would love to have you volunteer with us and share that. We'd also like to come out to your community or business for an event, or maybe just a dog walk at lunchtime. If you have a company where you think that would be helpful to have us show up with some cuddly dogs or cats and let your employees interact with them, we'd love to do that. Or if you want to do a service project, we always need that at the shelter. We're open for adoptions Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. and on Saturday from 11 to 3. You can call also about our free spay-neuter program. Our number at the shelter is 790-5590. I want to thank Hannah again for being with us, and I hope that you'll watch us next time on Pet Watch.
If we could talk to the animals, learn all their languages, maybe take an animal degree. If I conferred with our furry friends, man to animal, think of the amazing repartee. If I could walk with the animals, talk with the animals, grunt and squeak and squawk with the animals, and they could talk to me.
I think the blouse is more your type.
Really?
Mm-hmm. But before you try it on, I need to update some account information. Just need to verify your credit card numbers.
My credit cards?
Uh-huh. And a password or two. Won't take a second.
Something smells a little fishy around here.
What makes you say that?
Looks like he's fishing for your personal information.
So he can steal your identity.
You know that's insulting. I was trying to help.
Would you look at that?
What?
I thought you characters only did your dirty work over the internet.
Well, we do. I mean that we, with the... Gotta go!
OnGuardOnline.gov has tips to help you guard against internet fraud, to secure your computer, and protect your personal information. To be more secure online, log on to OnGuardOnline.gov. Stop, think, click.
Cows by Gail Bunton Haddock. Resting triangled into the ground with upjetting ridges and cavernous hollows down swooping, hulking, living landscapes, breathing, cud chewing, nonchalantly flicking their tails, quiet and velvet-eyed, peaceful, peaceful.